Hi, fashion industry sketching. I really hope you guys are well and hanging in there. And I'm excited to jump back into class. So this week, all you had to do was to post your repeating pattern and maybe pictures of your garment or fabrics that you've maybe received to the discussion board and submit that. Hopefully that's worked out. I'm going to try my best to ease you into drawing on the computer, and we're going to start drawing in Illustrator. And I understand that you guys won't have your pens, and I might even have to adjust further. But for this week, we will try drawing with Illustrator. So I have grabbed this image as reference, and it's really great to use a reference image even if you're going to change her proportions, because we can use this to reference where shadows are, and get the proportions of like the face right and other elements. So this is on its own layer right now. I haven't drawn anything else. So I'm going to make a new layer and then double click on the layer with the image on it, my layer 1. And we're going to check off template, which is going to dim the image so it's less distracting, and it's easier to see what we draw on top of it. Then we have to make sure layer 2 is selected for us to start drawing again. So the easiest thing to do is trace the whole woman as one shape, kind of off the bat, and then we're going to draw clothes on top of her. But essentially we're going to make the croquis first. So I am going to grab the pen tool, and I'm going to trace around at least part of this using the pen tool. So we click and drag to make curved lines with the pen tool, and when you're dragging, you aren't making a line, you're making a handle. And this can take some getting used to, but it's probably the most precise way to draw in Illustrator. And like where I've kind of gotten off track, because where her hand is overlapping her belly, we're actually going to add that detail in later. So let me finish drawing around her and come back. So remember, if it's disorienting while you're drawing to have it fill with white, like mine is, or if that's happening and it's confusing, you can definitely turn off the white fill anytime by coming over to your fill panel and clicking off, and then you'll just have the outline. You can also choose to make the stroke in front and add a black stroke if that's what you want. And we are going to finish drawing around her. So once I get back to the top, I can make it a closed shape by clicking on the end point again. Let me just make sure we get the curve of her face. If I click and drag on the end point, it will make it rounded out. So now we have a nice closed shape. I can fill it with a light color, make sure the fill is in the front, and we could even click on her skin tone to get an actual skin color. And for now we are going to make this semi-opaque. So we are going to, we can just adjust any of the handles. Remember, the black selection tool moves the whole object, And the white selection tool allows you, if you click and then click and drag on either the anchor points or the handles, you can adjust the flow of the line, right? So let's make it have a black outline again. There we go. Let's start, first off, let's remove this little section. And that's actually going to lead into kind of how we are going to add shadows to her, or at least one option for shadows. So this doesn't look very good right there. I just want to adjust really quick. With her selected, if we use the eraser tool, we can erase sections that we don't want in the shape, and then we can come in, zooming in with Control plus, we can come in and adjust the anchor points that were made until they line up, or I'm going to hit Control Z. We can use the knife tool to cut out a more precise shape. So I'm clicking and dragging, and this is making the knife tool. And then I believe I have left it a little bit open at the end. So I just fix that really quick, and now I am able to delete that little section. So now there won't be any color in that little section, and I am going to use the knife tool to add some shadows to her body in a really quick way. So I am going to actually duplicate this layer. And now we have 2 layers of skin color on there. And I am going to lock my first layer, so that's going to always be the solid skin color. And for this, we are going to carve out some shadows. So on her legs is going to be a nice obvious place to start. We are going to move along some of the shadow shapes, and this section is now going to be able to be filled with a different color. So we can do that for all the little moments on the toes. This moment over here. We can even add this section back in. Probably all the way up into here. I think while I'm here, I am, make sure you make closed shapes. While I'm here, I'm also going to cut out kind of like her, her bathing suit, and we can make that, the garment we're going to make today. We can always draw over this croquis as well and add more garments. So the knife tool is doing quite a bit of smoothing for me. I can adjust how much smoothing it does by double clicking on the knife tool to access its settings. That's at least the case for the pencil tool. And remember, the pencil tool is always an option if you don't like using the pen tool to trace around trace around the photographs. You can grab the pencil tool. You can double click to adjust its settings, that's for sure. We can make it really smooth, and we can try tracing around. I'm not going to go around the whole shape. And then anywhere that it lost detail, you can come back in with the white selection tool. You can add anchor points where you think it needs an extra one by using the pen tool and clicking on an already selected line, and then adjusting. You can subtract anchor points by doing the same thing. Already selected line and then selecting the pen tool. So once we think we've selected enough shadows, maybe a couple more. The object has to be selected for the knife tool to work, and if you notice, some of these aren't splitting, so I'm going to have to zoom in and figure out where they aren't separate objects. It looks like right here is a little funky, and now so I'm having trouble figuring it out. It seems like I can choose that one separately, so but for some reason I can't choose the body separately. It looks like maybe I have to connect it right here. So I'm going to try joining these two pieces back into one piece and cutting them again. We are going to do that using the shaper tool. So we have these two pieces selected, and we grab the shaper tool, and we can make them all one piece. And if there's another tiny piece there that I missed, I can add that back in, or I can try to. Okay. So that worked pretty well, and I'm going to try cutting those again, maybe with a smoother hand. So even though I had messed them up, they were pretty editable. So I am going to cut the body outline first this time, and then that dark shadow around the armhole. And I'm going to stop and make sure it's split, which it did not. Alright, I'm an idiot. It's just that it has to be separated around the hand too. Um, Sorry that took me so long. So let's go around the hand. And now it should be, yes, the body is now separate. So now with just the body selected and not the shirt, I can come in with the knife tool and cut the shadows on her arm without worrying about like damaging the dress shape. So same for this one. I'm going to use the knife tool and cut up that little hole in her hands. Okay, so let's start adjusting colors here. I am going to turn off my shadow layer for a second. These are going to be and I'm going to grab any area. Actually, I'm just going to select everything for right now and go ahead and give it all a darker skin tone color. So this is going to be the shadow, and we'll still make it opaque for now. And then anywhere, I forgot to add shadows around her her neck and chin really quick. I will do that. That's probably fine. Finish off this little shape. Okay, so anywhere that is supposed to be the lightest skin color, I'm now going to hit delete on, and we're left only with the shadows. Forgot to add toe shadows on this little guy, and probably some lower foot shadows. Okay, and then the dress, let's fill it with a pattern. So let's fill it with a denim texture. Hold on, let me grab one. So I found this obviously way too large denim texture. I'm going to shrink it down, and with it selected, we are going to go to Edit, Object, Pattern, Make, and see how it looks. And there are some seams in this, but they're pretty subtle, so I think we can get away with it, and they might even look like just texture in the denim. So I'm not going to make this into a seamless pattern in Photoshop right now anyway. I think this is fine. And we are going to hit done. And now we can actually delete that because we have the pattern texture added there. So let's start adding other things we might have missed. We actually need, I'm going to put this on its own layer for right now, and I'm going to duplicate it, and we are going to call this dress shadows, and we are going to make these a darker semi-opaque blue, and And let's cut up some shadows on her. If we need to reference the original image, we can always shut everything off and see, like, oh, there's kind of some shadow on this side of her dress and around the bust. So I'm going to turn off layer 4 for right now and focus on the shadows. Again, with the garment selected, I am going to, I feel like they don't line up. Oh, okay. With the garment selected, I am just going to cut through any of these specific areas where I feel like there's shadows. Same thing on this side of the dress. Great, so now I can delete the side of the dress I don't want and turn my texture back on, and there we have some shadows. So let's do her hair really quick. She's wearing this interesting kind of swim cap, and we can always draw right over that. So I could grab the pencil tool and we could give her kind of some 50s frills vibes. I love using the pencil tool and then adjusting manually, and that center point is way off. This point is a corner and I want it to be smooth, so I'm going to come up here to the convert option and adjust. Okay, so I'm thinking this is looking pretty good, and now I'm going to make a final layer, and this is going to be face lines and other lines that we think we missed. So I'm probably going to use the pen tool just because it'll be faster for me, but you could definitely use the pencil tool for this. And we are going to add whatever color lines. I'm going to stick with black for right now, and we can adjust from there. But if I select this and I choose tapered, tapered from large to small and make it rounder, and I can also add a round cap on the end. I can make a pretty good eyebrow pretty quick, right? So this is my stroke panel, and we can make things have a round cap, and you can also adjust the profile from the stroke panel. So let's make her other eyebrow. I'm going to start from the wide parts and move to the skinny part. Adjust the profile so it goes wide to skinny, make it thicker, and make sure it has a round cap. And then we can always adjust using the white selection tool. And we're going to do similar technique for the eyelids. Select them both, make them both a bit thicker, and let's try adjusting the profile. Let's look at her lips, and for her lips I wanted to intro the width profile tool. So let me zoom in here, and The width tool allows us to, kind of like these profiles, adjust the width along the length of a line. The width tool allows us to adjust the width precisely. So if we want the center of the lips to be really nice and thick, we can adjust manually like that, and we can adjust the ends down to points. We can adjust just one side of a line. So where this, where the bottom of the line looks pretty good, or sorry, the top of the line looks pretty good here, but the bottom looks a little funky, we can hover over this width point, and if I hold Alt, I will adjust only the bottom. Holding Alt again. Let's add another one over here. Let's just add a little boop for the bottom lip and a little moment for the nose. You don't have to go crazy on any facial elements. In my experience, it's a lot easier to draw simpler faces. So let's turn off the background image we traced and see how this looks. Any of these objects, they should all be at 100% opacity right now. I wonder if it's possible. Yeah, so we're gonna grab them all and make them set to 100%. And that's going to adjust some of the colors, so maybe that isn't what we would want to do. It's totally up to you. It does seem like the dress and the dress shadows need to be on top of the other shadows, because that was causing some like weird moments there. And the dress and the dress shadows are definitely misaligned. I don't know when that happened. We could always put a black outline on the dress shadows if we want a black outline, or on the dress if we want a black outline around the whole thing. I feel like that was kind of missing. Or we turn the black outline off for everything and we just, except for the face. And we just have these shapes we've made. We can always adjust colors by selecting an object and then going to select same fill color, and maybe we could lower the opacity on all of those. Maybe we could do the same thing on the dress shadows so some of the texture shows through. And here we have it's a pretty basic Illustrator drawing, but we're just learning to put together some of these skills. I think this is a very good option. I lost some of her toes. I hope this makes sense. I drew these all with my mouse. I didn't use my Wacom tablet or any kind of pen tool. I drew it all with my mouse using, well, I used the pen tool a bit, but the pencil tool and the knife would have gotten you there. If you're struggling with any of it, let me know. Just do the best that you can. Let's add a background to her really quick. I'm going to add a layer in the background, and I'm going to make a big rectangle, and we're going to apply a gradient to the rectangle. So I'm going to grab the gradient tool and Gotta make sure this is selected and then grab the gradient tool. It doesn't want me to add a gradient. I was applying it to the stroke. So let's stick with white and black and apply it to the fill. With the gradient tool, we can adjust the direction the gradient is going. So I would love this to be going top to bottom instead of left to right. So I'm going to grab the gradient tool and click and drag top to bottom. We can also adjust like where the center point is on this. So if we want there to be more black or less black, if we want there to be another color, we can click on this slider and then double click and adjust. Let's add some blue in here. That looks nice. So you can add some nice background detail and really ground your image. I think that's a great option. So let me know if you have any specific questions. I'm hoping that this is doable for you. I think it might be easier than drawing in Photoshop without a pen tool. I'm really hoping that you can all be successful in this class even without access to the labs. So let me know how I can make that happen for you guys, and good luck! See you in our catch-up web chats tomorrow.